The Gospel of Lazarus' resurrection is the last of these three Gospel cycle, great and lengthy, long cycles of Gospels in Lent, right in the middle of Lent, third, fourth, and fifth Sunday of Lent, that they each point out to an aspect of Jesus. And you heard the Samaritan woman, and the encounter with the Samaritan woman, Jesus presenting himself as the fount of living water, the one who brings the living water. Last Sunday, you heard in the gospel of the healing of the blind man from birth, saying, I am the light of the world. And he showed this. He didn't just say it, he also showed it by the fact of opening this man's eyes so he could see the light. And then third, this Sunday, we hear, I am the resurrection and the life. And he shows this also by the deed of resurrecting Lazarus. In all three Gospels, you also see a progression of faith. From the initial encounter, we end up in a place of faith. Not of everyone. There are people who doubt. There are people who question. Couldn't this man who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something also for this, so that his friend Lazarus would not have died? And so you see a progression of faith in each one of these people who encounter Jesus. As a matter of fact, if you remember Martha in another place, we remember Martha and Mary, where Jesus reproaches Martha because she was complaining, Lord, tell my sister to come and help me. And Jesus said, Martha, Martha, you are worried and anxious about many things. One thing is necessary. Mary chose the better part. And now in this gospel, you see Martha, who has grown in faith. And she says, yes, Lord, I believe that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. And Jesus takes her farther. He said, do you believe not only that your brother will rise at the resurrection of the dead on the last day, but do you believe that now your brother will rise? And she says, yes, Lord, I have come to believe that you are the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world. These are authentic professions of faith. People whose lives were really changed by the encounter with Jesus. And so they're beautiful, and the church gives them to us so that we may look into our hearts and see, where am I in my relationship with Jesus? Am I growing? Am I progressing? Can I say what Martha said? Can I do what the blind man did, who bowed down, knelt, and worshipped him? Can I do what the Samaritan woman did, to go and evangelize her whole village, so that not just her, but her whole village may come and meet Jesus, and they be converted too, just like she was changed? They are powerful, and I love these Gospels of Lent, especially this year, the cycle A, because there's something so deep, so powerful about the encounter with Jesus. And here's the thing, the encounter with Jesus is not just something we hear in the Gospel of 2,000 years ago. These encounters with Jesus happen today. If we open our eyes, if we have eyes to see and a heart open, God is here and working. He's right here in our midst and working and changing us, so that not only he rose people from the dead 2,000 years ago, but also he rises people from the dead in multiple ways. He continues to bring us to life, to give us new life. I want to share with you, we are also in the prayer phase of our capital campaign. I want to share with you how Jesus has resurrected an aspect of my life, of my faith, that is powerful and has stayed with me and has brought me to a new level in my relationship with the Lord and in my relationship with you, with the church. We are in the prayer phase of the capital campaign, our capital campaign, Together We Grow. And in this phase, we are prayerfully discerning what our gift will be. So this Sunday, I want to share with you my process of thinking, of discerning what my gift, my financial gift to the capital campaign will be like. Those of you who were here 4 years ago, I believe, remember that our offertory was going in a downward direction. And it was something that was very painful to watch, and it was hard. We have a lot of things that we need a lot of expenses. We have bills to pay, we have employees, we have a lot of things, that ministries that they're important. And to see our income decline and decline and decline, there's only so much you can cut spending and be very responsible with the spending. But I realized there was a deeper problem in place. And it wasn't about you, it was about me. And so I did something that you rarely see a priest doing. You're used to go to confession to a priest, and I go to confession too, but you rarely see your priest go to confession to you. And so that today I'm going to do the same thing. I took a chair, put it in middle here, and kind of went to confession with you. I realized that I cannot come and tell my parish to consider giving more, because I was not giving consistently. I was not giving consistently. Now you may think, well, Father, you're a priest and you've given your life to God, and it is true. That's what I thought too. Not that I wasn't giving. I was giving occasionally, things like auctions or supporting various ministries of the church, charitable organizations. But I was not giving to the offertory of my parish. And this is a lesson that I have to thank you, parishioners of St. Paul, because you have taught me how important this is. Here's a couple of excuses that I had used not to give. One of them was, I have given my life to God. What more can God expect of me? But here's the other thing that kind of was something that was some lack of faith in me, because I was thinking, what can my small amount, my small giving, I do not have a big income. So what is my small income, my small giving going to, what kind of impact is going to make? I had forgotten that lesson that I preach sometimes, of the widow that Jesus praises, that put the 2 coins in the temple collection. And Jesus said, that woman, that widow, gave everything she had. She had given more than everyone else. I was thinking, what will my 2 coins do? But I failed to believe that my 2 coins were just like those 2 loaves and 5 fishes of that boy that Jesus wanted. Not that he needed, but he wanted, in order to multiply and to make the miracle of the multiplication. He fed the 5,000 by multiplying what a boy had provided. I mean, seriously, Jesus? You go and take from a boy of all the crowd and all the food he had brought with him? But Jesus does this, just like in today's gospel with the resurrection of Lazarus, so that we may believe, so that we may see that he is at work, and he wants our part in it. He wants to bless us. He wants to show us that we need to have faith, and nobody has to feel like their giving does not matter because my giving is not big. No, God knows what we can give, and how big a part is that compared to what we have. So God sees that, and he needs that from each one of us. He wants that from each one of us. And so I failed to trust that in the Lord. There was something else that I failed to trust in taking the step of tithing to the offertory. And that was a lesson that I heard from some of you. Some of you have shared with me who have been tithing, that tithing is an act of great faith and it's a spiritual sacrifice. It's not really in the end about money. It's about your relationship with God and how important it is that you set aside the first fruits. No matter what stage you are in life, you set the first fruits. And I heard this from a student who said, no matter what, I set this rule, I learned this rule from my parents, that no matter what my income is, if I have $10, I'm going to give a big portion of that, 5 or 10, whatever it is. That is what I can give, but I will always give, no matter what. I heard from an unemployed person saying, I decided to give, even as I'm unemployed, no matter what. Because there's always going to be some excuses in life that I have some other things to do. I have other needs. And you know, in my case, there were also there was some trauma from growing up. If you've experienced poverty, you know that one of the things that can happen to you is that you live in fear of insecurity. The fear of going back to where you were. And so you tend to be very careful with your spending. That's not a bad thing in itself, mind you. But there comes a time in life where if your situation has changed, you have to reckon with that. I'm 45-year-old. It's time to get over my childhood traumas. Some of those, it's time to get over. Yes, we have to be responsible with what we have. And we have to live within our means. God does not ask us to live beyond that. Unfortunately, we have bad examples of that. Our government, to start with, living beyond the means. When I lived in Italy, I checked this morning, I remember that the national debt of Italy is bigger than the annual GDP. I checked this morning, last year's national debt of Italy was 147% of the GDP. It keeps growing. Like, this is living out of reality, right? And we know that in our country we're going to that direction too. And so it is important that we start with ourselves, with our personal, responsible behavior. But God comes first. And I did not do that. So when I considered, that was a conversion in my life because of you. And through that conversion, I've seen a change. I really believe that ever since, our offertory has gone in the opposite direction, upward, because I needed to change. And so today, looking at our capital campaign, and the need for what is the need. When I looked at it, I looked at, okay, this is a 3-year commitment. And if I divide it by 3, it's almost $5 million. If I divide it by 3, it's about 1.3 of the annual offertory, the annual income of the parish. And so I looked at what my giving is currently to the offertory, and I said, I need to multiply that, at least 1.3, so that I can make that over 3 years. I decided to double that, to go even farther, because this is an extraordinary effort, and I am blessed to be part with you in what is in the life of our parish, something that last time has happened was 33 years ago. 33 years ago. There are times in the life of a parish, just like in the life of a person, that we need to go the extra mile to do extraordinary things, and this is such time. So I have in my hand 2 envelopes with 2 pledges. One is with our Catholic Services appeal. Remember that we are not supposed to, our discernment for the capital campaign has to be above and beyond our parish and diocesan giving. So in this hand I have the Diocesan Services appeal pledge. And in this hand, I have my pledge for our Together We Grow campaign. It has to be sacrificial because the Lord has given us everything. Yesterday, we celebrated the solemnity of the Annunciation, and Mary's yes to God's project on her is total and enthusiastic. I know the translation in modern languages doesn't render that. But when Mary says, let it be according to your will, it's not let it be. I'm happy to do what God is asking me. And so I'm happy with you today because this is such a blessing to participate in something so big for our parish, for our current and future needs. So I look forward to seeing the results that God has planned for us. And what a blessing it is for me to sacrificially be part of this. It's really strengthened my relationship with God and with you. I feel that now when I raise the chalice and when I raise that host at the consecration, and I repeat the words of Jesus, take and eat, this is my body. It's not just Jesus' body, but there's something of me that is put in there in the sacrifice of Jesus, and that Jesus uses to transform it into himself and to give us life and to rise us, to bring us up just like he did with Lazarus. So let us, my brothers and sisters, continue to pray, and I hope that what I shared with you will help make your own choice, your own resolution to support our capital campaign.